This episode of the Nerf Herder Council is brought to you by Audible. Visit audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download.
Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking Nerf herder!
You can't use that word. Only we can use that word.
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate. Featuring your hosts, JT.
Stormtrooper armor deflects everything except Orback hooves. They're like a horse version of Thomas the Tank Engine.
AJ.
Yeah, Rebels is a lot like our show, where we think we have a good idea and then it just fails in execution.
Steve.
The vacuum of space does crazy things to your beehole out there, man.
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, we finally have all 12 episodes of Andor on Disney+. Can we just talk about how awesome this... Oh, wait, yeah, we can, and that's exactly what we are about to do.
This is the Nerf Herder Council.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. We are live at those two locations every other Wednesday at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you would like to download audio versions of the podcast, just Google Nerf Herder Council Podcast. You can get your own Nerf Herder Council customizable swag at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And as always, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. So without further ado, let me bring on a very good friend of mine. I happen to be related to him, and he has just returned on a trip from the Outer Rim, as it were. My brother, AJ.
Okay, yeah, that's one way of putting it.
You know, I wasn't sure quite how to phrase that, but you were in France, so that's about as Outer Rim as it gets for us, so, you know.
Yeah, I didn't see London and I didn't see no underpants, but I did see France.
Make me want to quote the Big Lebowski there. As the old feller says. But, so, yeah, you got to see France, and it was what you expected, so nothing crazy, I suppose. So that was...
If you count walking on a 2,000-year-old street crazy, then yes, I did something crazy. I mean, you know, the Romans left a bunch of shit behind, so it's still there, and you can still walk on it. It's pretty cool.
So basically, you spent the week in a foreign country doing cool stuff, and I spent the week sick as I've been in over 20, 25 years, so...
Oh, I was sick, too, so, you know, it's just going around.
Yeah, but you were good enough to be in a foreign country, so there you go.
Yeah, that's great timing, isn't it?
Yep. So since our last episode, we've had a few things come up. So we've already got, obviously, tonight's topic, and we've got our next topic that we'll be doing in 2 weeks. So that's good. We're finally ahead of the game a little bit. Mm-hmm. Kale McLeish tuning in. What's up, man? Good to see you, Kale. It's been a few weeks. Says, sup, guys? Feeling better, John. Yeah, I'm... Basically, today is really the first day that I kind of feel back to normal, Kale, so thank you for asking. But yeah, so since we last jumped on here, we've officially seen the season finale of Andor, and kind of been chomping at the bit to talk about this because obviously it's the hot button topic in Star Wars world, if you don't count the Bad Batch trailer and stuff like that. So... I kind of want to just jump right into it because we haven't talked any nerd stuff in a long time. For us anyway, it's been a month, which for us is an eternity.
Yeah, that timing was rough, wasn't it? With them putting the finale out the week of Thanksgiving, where you had shows and I had stuff going on. It was not well timed for us. Lucasfilm, you got to call us on these things, okay?
Yeah.
We'll let you know what our schedules are. We'll coordinate a little bit. It'll go a lot smoother.
Yeah. Look, damn
Kathy,
it.
you got my number. Come on now.
Yeah, like come on, like we host a show. You got to run this by us so we're available. I mean, geez,
Right.
So
Or just get us in on those advanced screenings like Star Wars Explained and all those other podcasts.
right. Well, I mean, let's jump into this. I mean, right off the bat, now that we've seen the show in its totality, you're a little more well versed than I have because you've had the time to watch the show twice through. I've only seen it once through. So there's still a lot of stuff I'm cloudy on. I'm just gonna say it. My initial impression is that this is the best Star Wars show that we've gotten from Disney Plus so far. What do you think?
Oh, totally agree. Absolutely. You know how we like Last Jedi because it's a breath of fresh air and it's something different for the franchise? I feel the same about this. This is not a show that 2015 Disney would have made.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think because it's, and I think we mentioned this before, but because it's a product of Rogue One, you instantly come into it with that hope that it's going to be as good as Rogue One. And I think it exceeded expectations. I have a friend at work who's a big Star Wars nerd, and I turned him on to the show and stuff, and we were talking about it, and he couldn't get into it the first few episodes, and he started late, so I was able to tell him, like, just give it time, just let it go. And now he is absolutely just a huge fan. So, and it's so different from their other stuff. It's not action based. It's very much more of a story based type of a thing. Mm-hmm. And they pepper the action in there here and there, so you get that Star Wars feel out of it, which is great. But it's not solely reliant on the action and all these characters we already know, and at least imagery we already know. I mean, the Mandalorian. Hey, look, it looks kind of like Boba Fett, so you've got that going throughout the show to get people into it, things like that. Like, oh, Grogu, he looks like he's Baby Yoda, things like that. Mm-hmm. This is not like that. K.O. McLeish, interesting comment. He says, "Is it okay to say that I think it's the best, but it's also far from my favorite?"
Yeah, you can recognize the quality in something and still not, enjoy it. I mean, that summarizes my food adventure in Europe. So
nice.
But yeah, I have a lot of friends that actually told me the same thing, where they're not as up on Star Wars stuff, but they actually listened to me for a change when I said, you've got to check this show out. I think it's much more your speed. And they all agree. They're like, yeah, this is something totally different, and I'm into this way more, but it's still Star Wars. So, there's no judging for poor taste, but they at least know that what they're watching is a good show.
Yeah. Did they give specifics as to what kind of grabbed them about it, knowing that they're not Star Wars fans?
They said that the writing and the characters were what really drew them for this one, because it, like we talked about, it's a slow burn. So it is much more character focused than action focused. So if you're not into it for the action and you do want to know more about the characters, this is definitely more your speed.
Yeah. I think that's what drew me to it so much, is that it is so different in that respect. And I think it's the slow burn aspect of it. It was really enjoyable. And, I get it. The second season is set five. I think they said 5 years after the first one, I believe. So,
something. Yeah, there's a time jump for sure. I think there's a bunch of time jumps actually.
Yeah. And so I get it. Like, you can't have it move that quickly because you've got a 5-6 year time span to cover. Mm-hmm. But even that being said, I really, really enjoyed how, it wasn't one of those, Cassian, you could tell he's a hero right off the bat. Like, you see where it's going. Like, no, he's still, you could see elements of the Cassian that we know from Rogue One. But it's really not there. It's like, okay, he basically kind of did, got into this, he got recruited in basically for money.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it was just kind of, he wants to get the hell out. And so you don't see very much of this, okay, I'm fighting for the cause type of a guy. And I thought that was really cool because I thought that he would tie more directly to the rebellion's cause, and it really didn't, at least to me. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I like that. It's like your statement about Anakin becoming Darth Vader. Like in episode 1, you can't have this like evil brat of a kid who just gets worse and worse every movie. You've got to start the character off at a different place. And I like that this one, it picks up with him just going about his life and apparently doing a poor job of it. Everyone seems to be kind of fed up with him on Ferrix, like
Yeah.
He's always like into someone for money and coming home late or, doing something he shouldn't. And, it's just this random occurrence that sets everything in motion. So like you said, like he's not all about the cause. He doesn't care about the cause or know that there even is a cause per se, other than, it's a way to make money, right? Like he's got this stolen Imperial stuff and he's like, I need money, so I'll hawk it now.
Yeah.
And then everything sets off from there. So I love that. Yeah, it starts off with him just trying to save his own skin. And as a result, he gets roped into this stuff and kind of grows a conscience over time.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think what also was cool, kind of speaking to that is the rebels themselves. It's still not this cohesive, unit. It's not this cohesive cause. They say, there's that overdub in the excuse me, in the final episode where they're talking about it's a bunch of little insurgencies across the galaxy, and eventually it's going to be one too many, and then it's going to flood the Empire. Like, and you've obviously got the Saw Gerrera thing in here, which was, man, that was just awesome. And anytime you give me Saw Gerrera, I'm happy. So that was cool. And I mean, that the Aldhani mission, you had, they pull it off. They didn't get all of the credits, but they got most of them. And then right off the bat, you've got that guy like, all right, let's go steal the ship. We'll take all the money. F those guys.
Yeah.
So this guy who seems like he's all about, fight the Empire, this, that, and the other. Like, no, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna rob from the people who just robbed the Empire. Like, so I thought that was really cool too, to kind of show that they're not all together yet. And I like that. Again, I just like how it feels so ragtag. And I was expecting it to be more rebellion versus Empire. And while the seeds are there for that, I expected more of that. And I wasn't unhappy that it didn't happen.
Yeah. One thing that Star Wars has a problem with sometimes, especially with the movies, is that it's these big broad strokes, right? Like we've got hundreds, if not thousands of army people, like be they droids or stormtroopers or clone troopers or whatever, fighting. And we've got waves upon waves of TIE fighters and ships battling it out. And it's very easy to forget that each one of those things is an individual that has their own stakes in that battle, And I like the way that this show just drills down to the very, very individual level where, Bix has her own story and Brasso has his own story. Even the Time Grappler kind of is a character unto himself where he's got his own stuff going on when Rick's Road, that finale happens, to where like that Aldhani mission, like you were talking about, people are still talking about that story arc because they made a single TIE fighter, which is the most disposable ship in all of Star Wars. They made one TIE fighter buzzing over a hilltop the most terrifying thing possible because two people were at risk of being seen by it. We're like, the stakes have never been that small, but also that like intense at the same time, Yeah.
Like,
did you find yourself in pretty much every episode on the edge of your seat and not even realizing that the stakes that are at play are very minor?
Yes.
In a lot of cases.
I did. I was actually gonna bring that up because I think this really did an awesome. I think one of the best things that it did was really kind of show the size of the Empire versus the lack of size the Rebellion had. Because like you said, one TIE fighter and they're shitting their pants. Mm-hmm. And you realize that, you know, they can't fight that. There's no way for them to survive that. And it's only a few people. It's one TIE fighter, but it felt so much bigger. And like, you know, that's a perfect way to phrase it. Like you're on the seat of your pants, you know, on the edge of your seat. Like, oh my God, are they going to get caught? Are they going to get found? Like, you know, and then, you know, when they bring in aspects of, you know, certain people being spies and whatnot, which by the way, anybody listening or watching, we are going to have spoilers in here. So, just get ready. If you haven't watched it, we're going to spoil things. But, you know, when you find out the one Imperial guy is a spy and you're like, oh my God, okay. And then I was constantly wondering about Andy Serkis's character.
Yeah.
Because that just seemed like such an Imperial plant that I was waiting for that to be a thing. I mean, but yeah, very astute point on your part, because it really did feel, you know, like the stakes technically in that scene are small because, you know, it's a few people, but you feel that the stakes are so much bigger. There's that tension there. They did such a cool job of building that up. And again, it wasn't through action. It was just good storytelling and character building. And, you know, Kale says that this is something you mentioned previously, AJ. But he says, I feel like this has been very arc led, where every other show has a central story, but has a lot of standalone aspects as well. This has the central story broken up into 4 3-episode stories. Yeah, this was very definitely Clone Wars-esque in that respect. It's like 4 little chunks, you know, I would say. So yeah, I love that aspect. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to mention that later. But it felt heavy and important. And again, it's yet another example of them telling a story that we know where it ends, and yet doing such a good job of getting us there. I mean, they're masterful at that in these things, man.
Yeah. I think part of what helps that is they introduce compelling new characters that have open stories. Like we've got, you know, Cyril down there in our wallpaper, for example. Like, we don't know that guy at all. He never showed up before, so we don't know where his story goes. We don't know where Dedra, the, you know, ISB agent that he's all hung up on, what happens to her. And that's another thing that, like, that character in general is one of those things where, like, you know, she's the bad guy, and yet she's written so well, you find yourself rooting for her a little bit when she's got that inter-office competition.
Yeah.
And she's like grinding up against the other ISB agent that ends up taking over the Ferrix operation.
Yep.
And it's like, wait a minute, I'm rooting for a bad guy here. What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, the writing is so good like that. But yeah, you're right. Like, the end result is going to be Rogue One. So we all know where the story is going, and yet it's so much fun watching how it gets there. And all the stuff that, like, this all feels like stuff that was like the same way A New Hope, for example, had these little name drops, like, of the Clone Wars and all these things that implied like a history that you just didn't see, but it was all there ahead of time, you know, like it was considered. Mm-hmm. Same with Rogue One for me now. Like, do you feel like this show is kind of painting in some of that stuff for you, where, you know, now that we can see, we've got like medium crazy Saw Gerrera, and we've got, you know, proto Cassian here, and Mon Mothma is still kind of unfamiliar at this point to us, but makes sense as a backstory for her character. Like, do you feel like this show has really, like, enhanced your opinion of Rogue One?
Yes, even though that's very difficult to do because Rogue One is damn near a perfect movie.
True.
I think what it does is that it makes me appreciate the fact that Rogue One left enough crumbs out there that you can tell stories like this. And I think the one thing that I've realized is now, because of this show, and, you know, it's just gonna, there's so many offshoots you can do. And now I feel like telling the story of how the rebellion comes to be is there's so much there to explore. And, it goes back to, stuff like when we talked about Resistance and, Rebels and stuff, like, we're not the biggest fans of those, but, as I've always said, I like that they're there because it gives, it provides the chance to have more content that I might like. Mm-hmm. And I think this is doing exactly that because, I don't think there's a Star Wars fan worth his salt out there that would tell you, oh, I don't want to know the origins of the rebellion. Like, no. And especially in this fashion, where it's not just, oh, we got sick of the Empire. We're just, now we're good. We're good guys. Like, no, it's not like that. It's gritty and it starts small and it's difficult. And, I absolutely love how they're doing this, and the fact that we can get, another season of Andor, and now there's all these other threads, especially when they say things like, oh, there's all these other insurrections happening throughout the galaxy. Okay, where? Show me. Like, where does Skarsgård? Where the hell's his character come from? Like, what's his deal? Like, you could go see what he was doing off camera and things like that.
What about Krieger, the faction that Luthen sacrificed to keep the larger operation secret, right?
Yep.
There's a whole cell that just got wiped out. Like, wouldn't you like to know what he was doing before he was thrown to the wolves?
That was the very first thing I thought, because I'm thinking they just say, yeah, here's this Krieger guy. We're gonna go get him, and I'm thinking this is so like, oh yeah, the rebels have won their first victory against the evil empire in the crawl of episode 4 that started all of this. Like, yeah, that one sentence, and then you're like, oh, who's Krieger? Like, oh, they could tell you, how'd they get the Death Star plans? Well, we'll tell you. Like, they're doing such a good job with this. It's, God, the writing is so good. I see complaints online about certain aspects of these shows, and I'm like, how can you possibly complain? They're tying everything. They're making the world larger, which, some people don't like that. They like the mystery of it. Like, I want to have my own headcanon, whatever. But they're doing such a great job of expanding the universe, and it feels more real. It feels more tangible, and yet it's still got all those fantastical elements to it. It's unbelievable what they're doing, and this is the best example yet.
So, like you mentioned, there's a lot of like nods and things that are mentioned and not explained. Now, I've seen discourse both ways. Some people want everything explained. Like, if you name drop, then you better pay that off. Other people love the mystery of it. So I've got a couple examples, and I want to get your take on these. So when Saw rattles off all the other different rebel factions, like the Partisans and the Separatists and the Neo-Republicans or whatever the hell, and all he rattles off like 7 or 8 of them.
Sure.
Like, do you need to know about those, or do you feel like it's fine just knowing that they're out there? Like when they rattled off all the project names when they were looking for Stardust in, looking for the plans on Scarif.
I love all that, and it's funny you mentioned those projects, because I actually thought about that. I'm like, damn, now they could do all the different project names, like, right? And my mind went to, what if one of them is just like fixing the shitters? Like, we need better refreshers, and that's like Project Space Station or something like that. But, yeah, no, I like it. I like it a lot, actually. And I think it's because it's being handled so well. I don't think, God, this is such an obvious statement, but I think now that they've proven that they can handle this stuff well, I'm all for it. Whereas previously, the writing of the sequel trilogy did make me a little nervous. We've been over that, so I won't belabor the point. I won't belabor the point, but at that time, you're like, okay, if this is what they're doing, I don't think they really get Star Wars. Like that they got to do something. And then here comes Rogue One, and for me, here comes Solo, and then especially like Mando. I'm like, holy shit! And then Boba Fett and Kenobi, and now this is like it. Kale, Project Vacuum. Nice. Yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, I know that you, where Boba Fett is concerned, don't like them removing the mystery of the character. So where do you stand in terms of them going, okay, we're going to tell this elongated story about this seemingly background detail? Like, where do you stand on that?
Based on the quality of writing of this show, I will eat up whatever they're going to feed me. I wonder how much Disney learned their lesson from the sequel trilogy, because like you said, that writing was very obviously like off the cuff. They didn't know how they were going to pay certain things off, and the way they've done so was just bad. And there's been so much stuff that seems to be trying to like make sense of it now. Like,
yeah,
you know, we've got Grogu from The Mandalorian, and there's all this talk of cloning technology, and there's Mount Tantus in the Bad Batch, which more cloning stuff. And it's like they're trying so hard to make sense of Rise of Skywalker that I think they've got storytelling opportunities for years based on that. But in this case, everything that they drop that doesn't get explained is, I think this is the first time that Star Wars has really, God, I hate to get film criticky about it, but like respects its audience, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of stuff that just goes unexplained, and it's not because the writers forgot. It's because it's not crucial to the story, and they're not going to handhold you through it.
Yeah.
Like we've gone back and forth about the post-credit stinger at the end of the entire season. Like I preferred not having it. I thought the prison arc was more powerful. Speaking of your mystery, more powerful by not knowing what the hell they were building. Because it didn't matter. The fact that it wasn't spelled out to me was like a better storytelling decision. Because the point is, the Empire gives zero fucks about the people in this prison.
Yeah.
They might be building something that just gets tossed out. You know, it might not even be used for anything. They're just like, we got to keep them busy. We'll give them fuck all to do, basically.
They were working on the shitters for Project Vacuum.
Right.
sorry to interrupt. Anyway, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I thought it was cooler for the prison arc to never know what they were building, because like they don't care. They're just keeping the inmates busy so they don't revolt, basically.
Yeah.
To find out that, you know, it's that whole small universe problem where, oh, Cassian built parts for the Death Star, the very thing that ended up killing him. Like, I don't feel like it's like Anakin making C-3PO in the prequels. I feel like there's prisons everywhere that are producing this stuff. And that this addresses a plot hole that no one even really thought of, which is, how the hell did the Death Star stay a secret for so long when it was such a massive undertaking? And the answer is simple. When you've got prisoners that never get out building all of your shit, there's no way for the message to get out. So it fits in perfectly to explain how the Death Star came out of nowhere after a 20-year gestation. And it's like, oh yeah,
I never thought of
would
that.
Actually makes sense.
I never thought of that. Wow. Yeah. In terms of, I got a couple comments I want to bring up here in a second, but
sure.
Yeah. In terms of in terms of what they were building, to me, it was like, okay, it's cool to see, I suppose, you know, it's a Death Star, whatever. I just thought, excuse me. But I mean, wasn't it obvious? Again, as much as we joke about Project Vacuum, which by the way, that's going to be a recurring thing. I mean, dude, like, there's only one giant thing they're building. You know, that's one thing they can't come off of. They're not just going to have a show where, oh, we're at the AT-AT factory. Like, no, that's not going to be, you know, they're always working towards the Death Star. That's just what this all comes down to. So, you know, was it necessary? No, I agree with you on that. Was it cool to see? Yeah. I've talked to some people that were surprised that that's what it was. And I'm going, for Christ's sakes, what the hell else would it be? Like, that's like, as soon as I saw them building things, I was like, okay, they're building Death Star parts. Like,
it almost seemed too obvious though. Because you're right. What else could it be? And they were so good about this whole show about like subverting expectations that to just be like, by the way, here's the Death Star. Like, oh, yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. So Tony Webster, he says Andor was a great series. I think season 2 will be even better. I did want to touch on that later because that's kind of one of my main questions for you. Kale would like you to explain Mount Tantus.
Okay. And have you seen the entire first season of The Bad Batch, right, John?
I have.
Okay. So at the end of the first season, Kale, they take Nala Se, I think is the name of the come on, I'm blanking out here. Kaminoan. She's from Camino. She's one of the tall, like giraffe necked white skinned aliens that is
from
one of the
episode 2.
cloners.
Yeah, from episode 2.
Yeah, they take her to this mountain base looking thing after they blow up, Tapoka City and everything. And that is Mount Tantus. It's a reference to the old Legends continuity where basically it's one of many imperial repositories of like relics and data storage and stuff like that. So it's a research facility basically. Yeah. Heavily hinting that, the cloners are going to be used towards, what ends up being Palpatine or Snoke or whatever.
Boy, if we get that, wow. Doesn't it seem like what's going to happen eventually? They're gonna do so much stuff behind the scenes of the sequel trilogy. They're gonna make it good. They're gonna explain it all to where all of a sudden those damn movies make sense. Like, right? Freaking Rise of Skywalker is gonna look like The Godfather, for Christ's sake. But yeah, you brought up a great point, and Kale mentions this, so I want to talk about this because I never thought of it this way. He said, holy hell, that makes the whole thing sadder. He was forced to build the parts that killed him on the mission to retrieve the plans to destroy what he built. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like, yeah, Kale took it further. But yeah, like he was building parts for the thing that killed him. Like, that's pretty crazy to think about.
And of course he has no idea.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is he just knows he spent some time in prison making some stuff. He has no idea what it went for.
God, that's crazy. That's such a good point, man. I never thought of it that way. You always have these great outlooks. I'm just like, it was cool because he was building stuff and he got out of prison. And you're all deep into it, like, damn. And I was like, God damn it, why didn't I think of that? That's obvious. Like, so
speaking of dangling plot threads, here's one that I noticed on a rewatch.
Okay,
we never get any closure about his sister.
Yeah,
like that's the inciting incident, and it never pays off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm not bothered by that though. That's the thing. Like a lot of people would say, like that's just sloppy writing. You can't. I think the device is called Chekhov's gun, basically meaning like anytime you introduce something into the story, then it must come back later. Otherwise, it's extraneous. But I think that the whole sister thing actually, I don't need it.
Yeah.
Or whatever the hell was up with that Republic ship crashing and why it had separatist logos. Which the only thing I assume is that it was before the Clone Wars, so that was a symbol already in use by some faction somewhere that ended up splintering off.
Yeah. I think that it's good that you mentioned that because that is one thing that I wanted to bring up is that there seems to be some things that at the beginning I was like, where is this going? And it was almost like they're all over the place, and then it focused on some central ideas as this show went on, and other things that like it didn't matter. And like the stuff that you mentioned, it was like, okay, well, separatist ship. Okay, what? Okay. I guess it's just a thing. I kind of
call it a plot hole because they're like, they said Republic, but it's a separatist logo. Like, you don't think they considered that? They just didn't bother talking about it because it wasn't important.
Yeah. And okay, so this is a minor nitpick. So I'm going to preface this comment by saying that maybe it was just my TV or something. I don't know. Were you annoyed like I was when they were showing like Cassian and his sister and stuff, like as kids, and there were no subtitles, so you have no idea what the hell they're talking about?
I wasn't annoyed, but I was surprised.
I was annoyed.
Like, the story was clear enough without it. And that's again where I think like this show really like expects the audience to like put some work into it. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to see people put their own damn subtitles to it. I wish I knew how to edit video. I would love to put subtitles to that.
Oh, like, that'd be fantastic.
Like, you know, just Cassian's sitting there, and what he's actually saying is like, man, my balls itch again, you know, from sitting on this damn ground in a loincloth all the time. You know, like, but yeah, so I mean, that was kind of an annoyance because I didn't know, like, it just made it seem like nothing was happening. Like, if you're not going to tell me what they're saying, then it obviously doesn't matter. So why is this going on so long? Let's get to the point. Like, and so again, that's a minor nitpick, and I'm not going to, you know, begrudge them that.
His entire childhood was kind of a head scratcher. Like it's like a Lord of the Flies situation. It's a bunch of kids. Like there's no adults in that entire camp. So who made their clothes? Who's feeding them? Like, what the hell are they doing there to begin with?
And do you think I'm sorry, I cut you off, but before I forget, you mentioned it. That's interesting. Like his whole childhood, like Lord of the Flies and everything. Is it just me, or have they still not really properly explained that line? I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. Like, it doesn't seem like it. He just lived with his mom, who was pissy about the Empire. Like, but he didn't really seem like he was doing anything.
All I can guess is that because he was clearly older than 6 in the flashbacks.
That's what I thought.
So either they forgot about that, which, you know, is possible, or there's something that happened even younger that put him on that planet in the first place. Which also, there's another mystery. The whole thing was like, you know, Marva's all freaking out. Like, who'd you tell that you're from Kenari? Who'd you tell? Who'd you tell? Like, why is saying you're from Kenari such a dangerous thing? Like, why did they never let that out? What the hell happened on Kenari?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that either.
So like they're sprinkling all these little like seeds that just don't pay off. And I'm not even mad about it. I'm just like, oh, good. There's more stories to tell.
Right. There it is. Kale just said it. Season 2 plot thread.
Yeah. I feel like you got to bring his sister back in at some point. It can't just go completely unaddressed.
Do you think they're going to say I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say maybe they're going to pay both off with one story arc in the second season. Who knows?
Well, I kept wondering, and maybe I missed something, and I'm completely pulling this out of my ass right now, but I kept wondering if they were going to say that, God, who's his friend that gets like the mind probe thing? Is that, what's her name? You know, the one that's basically Bix. Yeah, I kept wondering if they were going to come out and say that, oh, guess what? Bix is actually your sister.
Right.
Like,
yeah, it seemed like it was right there.
Yeah. I wonder if it was too obvious, but I was like, okay, well, you know, we'll see. I wondered if they could pull that off.
It would continue the tradition of unintentional incest in Star Wars.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And hey, from a company that decided to create a sentient rock that hits on chicks, you know, does his sister know? Kale asks, does his sister know that Aunt Petunia died?
You get that reference, right?
Aunt Petunia. I know it was explained on the previous episode, so.
Yeah, okay.
Nice, Aunt Petunia.
Good question, though. Like, she was all, I mean, she didn't know shit from nothing after the torture that she went through.
Yeah.
Which, how cool was that? That was fantastic. The way there was no sound whatsoever. You just got to watch.
Sorry, I was going to say, like, yeah, I just want to know what the hell was in, like, was it, didn't they explain it? It was like, I thought they explained it. Something about, like, it was some race of beings, like, dying or something like that.
Yeah, apparently, yeah, and they made an enhanced recording of children specifically. So it's just a recording of hearing children get slaughtered, apparently. Like that's their torture device.
So basically, it's a sleep CD for Anakin Skywalker.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's just Order 66 on repeat.
you picture it's like there's a vinyl in the corner. Order 66 greatest hits. That's what they're listening to. Oh my god. Yeah,
now that's what I call Order 66 Volume 13.
There's the thumbnail for this episode. That's awesome. Oh my god. Yeah, I think overall I one of the other things that I loved about it was the pacing, because I thought it was done perfectly. It was one of those things, like, again, it started out slowly, but because it was so different, it kept your interest. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, okay, well, nothing's really happening, but what's going on here? Like, I've never seen this before. And then as you start really getting invested, then some more stuff happens. Like, so the way that they again, they paced it all, I thought was awesome. It completely suckered me in, because it was like I was getting used to it, and then once I was used to it, I'm like, okay, now some serious stuff is happening. Like, you could feel the stakes are getting higher, and there gets more tension, when they get to the prison and everything. And because I don't know about you, but when he got to the prison, I was like, wait, what the hell? How? He's going to prison? What the hell is he going to possibly do to join the rebellion in prison?
Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting to me that they did that. So I thought that was cool.
God, how imaginative was that prison, by the way? That was so cool.
Yeah. Like
they're doing such a good job of making stuff that like feels like it belongs in Star Wars, but it's also unlike anything we've ever seen in Star Wars.
Yeah. Like, none of it sucks. Like, you don't see none of this stuff you see and go, oh, come on, really? Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have that moment. And I get it. Like, we're fanboys for anything Star Wars, but even still, I mean, it's really good. The electrified floor thing, which is get off the damn floor or you're dead, basically. I mean, that was, that was really cool. And, so, and just that alone, bringing in the whole electrocution aspect of it and shorting everything out with the water, so, they couldn't turn on the floor, that was cool. And it just, like you said, all these things that are good but we haven't seen them yet. It's like they just keep they have these great ideas, and it feels so Star Wars, but it's so fresh at the same time. So,
yeah,
man, oh man. By the way, speaking of the prison, I still want to know if Andy Serkis lived.
Good question. Yeah,
I don't care.
What happens to anybody who didn't escape?
Yeah, that's.
By the way, the other thing that I liked about that escape. Now, if this was a movie, that not only would they escape, but then as they jump into the water, there's going to be a sea creature eating them all or something, right? Like,
exactly.
It's always like that, the raising stakes kind of thing.
Yep.
I like that it was just like, no, you just swim away. You're good. Like, that's a more realistic, grounded sort of thing to do. Star Wars would love to just up that ante, and I was like, oh, that's I love that. Like, all that held Andy Serkis's character back was, I can't swim.
Yeah. Yep.
And he had to know that swimming was going to come into this. So he was doing all that knowing that he had no chance of getting out of there.
Right. Once you just jump, though, you're like, I'll take my chances. Like, someone will drag my ass, Like, wouldn't you just do it?
I mean, it's got to be better than waiting for the Empire to show up.
Yeah. I do have to admit that when they were all jumping and they're swimming away, I'm going, is there nobody up there with guns that are like just going to pick them off? Like, it's like literally like shooting fish in a barrel. And I'm just picturing Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where the dude runs up to the castle and stabs the one guy and then runs into the castle. And the other guy turns around, just watches him go and says, hey, I'm just picturing the Imperial Guards doing that as they're swimming away going, hey, you can't do that. What huh? What do we do now? Like, so that was kind of weird. And then, when, Cassian and Melshi got caught by those two aliens, and then they basically just kind of let them go. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, okay. Speaking of things that don't need to be explained. So, see, Kale's bringing it up again. Our Snoke theory. He was beaten so badly that he was horribly deformed, but he survived. Consumed by his hatred, he turned to the dark side, found a way to give himself force powers like in Jedi Outcast, and he's Snoke. We already said we figured it out, man. That's definitely it. He's officially Snoke. I don't care what Star Wars says. That's my headcanon. That's one of two things I pulled out of. I made my own headcanon of. That's officially the origin of Snoke, and the other one is I'm going to piss off Raylos because I'm shipping the two Imperial people. So there. Oh, they should have kissed. They should have hooked up. They totally wanted each other. You could tell. I shipped them. There we go. Yeah. So that geeky dude and I'm terrible with character names, as you can tell, but
Cyril and Dedra, I think you're talking about.
Yeah,
the
Cyril and
Corpo
Dedra.
and the ISB agent.
Yeah, they're.
Yeah.
I officially shipped them, so they totally want each other. I don't care what Dedra says.
Yeah, I like how that turned from just I'm a prick who wants to chase somebody down to now I have this like obsession with this ISB agent.
Yeah.
But he's like useful, so she's like, shit, I've got to put up with this for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's great writing.
Well,
also, I don't know why my lights just turned on, but that's cool.
That's all good. Yeah. You're turning to the dark side.
Right?
Yeah. I also thought it was really cool how, in the finale, she actually showed fear. Like this massive, oh shit moment. Like, cause you don't see that. And, to me, it was a little weird why the Empire didn't just open up and start mowing people down a lot quicker. Like that just seemed like one of those things. Like it was interesting that they just let Marva start talking, like she does her speech,
right?
And she's like, "F the Empire, rebel," and they're like, like what are they on their iPhones or something? Like, I mean, it was like, okay, that's interesting, but I guess to me, I kind of thought about it. It's like they must not think these people are going to do anything. It's to them, it's not a threat. It's not there's nothing serious about this. Like, yeah, let this old dead woman bark at them, and what are they going to do? Throw rocks at us? Oh no! Mm-hmm. So that was kind of interesting as well. But again, I thought that it kind of showed a little bit of arrogance on the Empire's part. This is not a big deal, whatever, they're not going to do anything, and it's kind of like
that was the recurring theme. Yeah I mean, Andor's speech in what was it, the second or third episode was right to the point. Like when Luthen's like, how did you even get this? He's like, I just walked in and took it.
Yeah.
And like, well, how does that work? Just act like you belong. Like they don't even believe that there's any chance of anyone getting in there, so they don't care.
Yeah, they don't. They don't give a damn.
Yeah, at every turn throughout this season, it's just one more example of how the Empire does not believe that there's any chance that there could be a resistance. And isn't that Dedra's battle the whole time in the ISB is to say like, this is actually getting coordinated. We should probably pay attention to this. And everybody else is like, really? Don't you have better things to do with your time?
Yep. Yeah, and that's another interesting aspect of the show. Kale, good point. Kale says that ending reminded me of Jeddah. Enough said. Yeah, me too. I mean, it might be a little obvious for us to say that, Kale, but I completely agree with that. But yeah, I thought that was another cool aspect of the show is that you're seeing more of the, how the Empire has a lot of infighting. Because we've seen that in the books, obviously, like, people like sniping at each other and trying to, step on each other to get to the top of the ranks. And, it's been in the books a lot, but I don't think we've seen it very much, in the television programming. And I thought that was awesome because you finally start seeing that the Empire is so greedy and they have such a lust for power, even at the lower levels, that it's not good. And they're really not on the same team a lot of times. But you also, Dedra's character shows that not all of them are just warmongers that just think that they're going to kick everybody's ass and there's, we'll just blow them up and it doesn't matter. She's like, no, there's more important, serious things going on that could be a threat. So I'm glad you brought that up because I thought that was really cool. It's like, it sounds stupid to use this word, but humanizes the Empire. And I like that a lot. 'Cause as much as I've said, I like what they're doing with the rebellion in that respect, like making it feel real and gritty. And there's all these little factions. Like they're expanding what we know and believe of the Empire as well, which I thought was really cool too.
Yeah, they actually made the Empire somewhat competent and by extension threatening.
Yeah.
Like Dedra does know what she's doing. So it seems really, really dangerous whenever she's putting pieces together because it's not the usual arrogance. It's like, no, I've got data. I can see what's going on here. And then you get stormtroopers who actually hit people. Like,
yeah,
when they're mowing people down in that finale, they're actually hitting their targets. And you realize it's a bunch of people with no guns against a bunch of people with guns. Yep. And they have, like sniper positions and stuff. So it's like, yeah, they're dangerous. They are severely dangerous. And I love that.
Yeah.
I like this. I like this new grounded, like hard hitting approach. It's like, what do we love so much about Black Widow? Is it the violence, the fight scenes feel like the Bourne series, right? Where there's this like weight to them, this grittiness. And I feel like the Empire and the gunfights and everything in this series kind of hit harder than most of the battles in Star Wars, where it's just pew pew pew. Oh, I fell over, I'm dead. Like this is much more, it's more grounded, so it hits different.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, the realism is something that is, God, it just adds a layer to it. It's like I said earlier, we know it's Star Wars and it's fantastical. We still get those elements, but it feels more grounded. It feels like it's reality.
So do you like this approach? Because I love it. Star Wars, started off as like more like a fable or a fairy tale. So that's why there's no blood and, it's just a very broad strokes kind of storytelling format. And this is a very like detailed format. Do you feel like that still fits with Star Wars?
Yeah, I love it again because it opens up the possibility to tell stories in other areas that I would really like. I mean, for example, if you applied this sort of this sort of storytelling and this sort of writing to stuff with the Jedi back around the time of the Clone Wars and whatnot, I would love it because I love the Jedi and the Force and the lightsabers and all that. It's my favorite part of Star Wars, behind Han Solo and the Falcon. And so if you can give me something gritty and real like this, but where the Force is concerned, and because we kind of saw some of that with Kenobi. It was a little more, it wasn't on this grandiose level. It was very humanistic, and I love it. I love it because it still feels like Star Wars. Like they haven't sapped that mysticism out of it. They haven't sapped the fun out of it. It just feels like you can. It sounds so stupid because it's space fantasy, but it feels like you can relate to it more. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I like that. Because it's like my favorite form of entertainment. Star Wars is my thing. Star Wars is our thing. And it's like, and if I can relate to it more, and it feels like something more tangible, that just makes it more personal. It makes it a more personal viewing experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think what we keep coming back to is the strength of the writing. We keep talking about how Rogue One was amazing because they managed to take like 7 or 8 characters that were brand new to the audience, introduce them and kill them and make you feel every death in that 2.5 hour runtime or whatever it was. And I feel like this series does it, but even more so. Like, when Nemec dies, you knew he was the guy with the manifesto, the guy who's the heart and soul of the team. Of course, he's going to be the one to die.
Yeah.
But like you felt it. And like all these characters, there's not a lot of action. So you're not being sold on what they do. You're being sold on who they are.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just like the Gilroy's like strength or something, is being able to write characters that people can relate to. Cause I don't think there was a single character they introduced that I was like annoyed by or didn't think there was layers beneath the surface. Like everybody that showed up on camera to me was like, oh, I could totally dive into that person and learn more about them. Like, so we've got our main characters, right? We've got our Mon Mothma, we've got our Cassian, we've got our Dedra, and we've got our Serial, for example. Yeah. So I think those are like the big 4, right?
Okay.
What are the background characters would you like to know more about?
Give me all the BD EMO or BD EMO BD whatever whatever the
Yeah.
droid is. Like, dude,
B2 emo. Yeah.
I thought it was B8 or something. What? It's something B? Is it? Is
B2.
Is it B2? Okay. So
it's
yeah,
so on the nose.
I tell you what, man. When something happens to that damn droid, I'm going to be pissed. I love that droid. So
Do you love that? Like him getting kicked over by the Imperial was what sparked everything on Ferrix?
as well it should. As well it should.
It's like kicking a puppy. You know, you just don't
yeah.
do it.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, dude, why would you kick B2? Like, why? Where did I get BD? Good Lord. Oh, BD8.
BD1.
Yeah, BD. Yeah, well,
BD1, BB8. It's been a while since we talked Star Wars. It's okay.
no, there's a BD8 elsewhere. I'm just trying to remember where it was. But anyway, excuse me. Yeah, let me think. I mean, all the background characters were cool, but I don't think it was anything. I don't think it was anything like I'm like, because most of like Cassian's friends on the planet were kind of, they were just like dumpy dudes who, you know, oh man, my PlayStation just turned on. Damn it. Apparently,
Gotta go play video games.
No, well, apparently what happened is my VR, it runs on. There we go. It runs on voice command, and it must have heard something because it went to the login screen, and I've got like a screensaver that has creepy music on it. So anyway, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, like all of his friends were kind of generic to me, kind of interchangeable. So I wouldn't say that. Man,
So Mon Mothma's cousin does nothing for you.
yeah, no. Yeah, I can't really think of anybody.
See, the one that comes to mind for me is Luthen's assistant at the antiquities shop.
Okay.
She clearly, you know, she's been with him a long time and she's seen some stuff. And I really wonder like what her story is. Actually, we're not really clear on what Luthen's story is for that matter.
I was going to say, does he count? Like, I didn't.
Okay. Kale, great deep cut here. Says BD-8 was a Huzan Vong Hunter Series battle droid that was owned by the Solo family. No longer canon, sadly. Great deep cut. I didn't even know about that. Guarantee you JT did not know about that.
No, but I must have read it somewhere.
Yeah, we'll just take credit for it. You knew it. The Force put that in your head. It just it manifested.
I wasn't wrong. So
the Force was flowing through you.
All right. So, are there any background characters that you wanted more of?
Well, like I said, the Luthen's assistant in the shop, I think, is a good one. I don't know if I really need anything about the Imperial spy or Rebel spy, rather, in the Imperials, whatever his name was, Lonnie or something.
Yeah.
The Ginger, whatever his name was. By the way, I have to go back and watch Rogue One again because I'm trying to remember what the guy looked like that ran to tell Mon Mothma that Rogue One had actually left to attack Scarif. Remember the dude who like rips his headset off and he's like running to try to like get her attention? I swear that dude is in Rogue One, but people would have been saying that online, and I haven't seen anyone say that.
Yeah, wow, that's
but they love their deep cuts.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it could be. I just in that scene, I always focus on how the dialogue for some reason doesn't make sense. Like what they say, like it just doesn't. Something the guy says like always sits wrong with me. So I'm like, wait, what's he saying? I'm trying to make sense of it, and I never look. Kind of like how I never see Chopper in there either. So. I'm one of the like 3 Star Wars fans on the planet that can't find Chopper. It's like the Where's Waldo,
right?
And Waldo does not.
Yeah,
exist
it's just
for
a
me,
giant
sadly.
blind spot for you. Yeah,
yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, can we? Do we even count Luthen? I mean,
I think we do.
Yeah, because that.
Where do you come down on the whole Luthen might be a Jedi thing?
Huh? Who? I never heard that.
Yeah, there's a theory floating around that Luthen might be a Jedi in hiding. And if you put that in your head and then listen to his speech towards the end there where he's talking to Lonnie or whatever his name is, it kind of makes sense. He's got lines like, I share my dreams with ghosts. And there's a couple other things. But yeah, his speech can be interpreted as a whole bunch of veiled references to, fallen Jedi and the loss of the Jedi Order and everything. And
I could see that, but the problem is he's also talking in the finale about, all right, we got to find him and kill him. I mean, if he's that, I get it. Like that's like some Dooku stuff right there, but that just, man, I don't know. I mean, if you're gonna do all that stuff and then just like, and again, he like willingly like sacrifices, all these different people, and he's a little too slimy to be a Jedi, I would think. Unless they're all of a sudden gonna officially introduce the concept of a gray Jedi. I mean, maybe that's what they're doing, but that seems like a little bit of a reach to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun theory to play around with, but I think it's a bit of a stretch too. Yeah, you know how Star Wars fans love to just go off on stuff like that,
right? Yeah,
I mean, we can't play it here. I mean, it's available on YouTube just as a clip, but yeah, I can put a link in the chat though for people. But yeah, it's
I don't subscribe to that.
So what did you think of Forrest Whitaker's portrayal of Saw Gerrera at this point? Because we've got a couple different snapshots of Saw now throughout the years. We've got like opening scene of Rogue One Saw. We've got Rebels Saw. We've got Fallen Order Saw. And obviously Rogue One and now Andor. And Andor is like right in the middle of all that. Because like Rebels takes place like a year before Rogue One, and so you get like already crazy Saw in that series, like in Rebels. Fallen Order is when in the timeline?
Oh God, now you're really testing me. I haven't played that in a bit. How far after Order 66 is that? It's like 5 years or something like that.
Okay, so that's about 5 years before Andor then, right?
Yeah, it's not.
No. Andor is 5 years before A New Hope. There's a timestamp. I think it says 5 BBY in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 15 years after Order 66. So Fallen Order is like 10 years prior to this show.
It's earlier. I'm almost positive. I should really know this shit better. I do a damn show. Other Star Wars nerds probably tune in like, this guy's an idiot.
But I love Saw in this. Like, did you feel like his character like fit in the arc, knowing that it's like in between like early Saw Gerrera and full on batshit crazy Rogue One Saw Gerrera?
Yeah, I mean he was more together. Oh, there we go. Kale. All right, so I was pretty damn close. Fallen Order is 14 BBY. So, okay. So I was pretty close. Yeah. I'm sorry, I just lost my place. What was the question?
Do you feel like
Saw Gerrera.
Sorry. Yeah, Saw's portrayal like fit within the arc of crazy.
Yeah, I think it did. Kale also brought up Clone Wars Saw, so we add that in there. Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I mean, if you're going to see, younger, a little bit less jaded Saw, you figured that's exactly what, you're going to see is that. So I thought it was fantastic. I mean, but I just love the character. I love the portrayal of it. I think Forrest Whitaker is phenomenal. If they just did like a Saw standalone anything, I'd be all in for that. So that would be great. So I thought it was really, really good. Again, because he seemed like Saw, but you could tell he wasn't yeah, he wasn't full on, over the barrel crazy, like you said. So,
Yeah, the attention to detail, like that's got to be so hard as an actor because he's played this character now at like 4 different points in the character story arc, and they're all out of sequence.
Yep.
So to try to dial it in, be like, all right, well, how crazy am I at this point? And have to, nuance it like that. But I feel like that scene between him and Luthen, where Luthen was like, yeah, I'm offering up Krieger. Like he's gonna go in and he's gonna die. You can join him or not. It's up to you. Like I feel like that was a major point along Saw's path to paranoia, right? Because he's all about like lies, deception, every day, more lies. Yeah, like this is one of those things that like led him to that level of crazy. He's like, man, even the people I work with are gonna sell me out at every turn.
Yeah, that's a damn good point, man. I never thought of it that way. Wow, man. Yeah, that's another thing. I just couldn't believe it. Like, really shows like the stakes. We talked about the stakes earlier. Like when you've got Luthen just basically saying, yeah, this whole crew is going down. It's, got to do it. It's the price we got to pay.
Yeah, and again, Saw's inclusion in general was. It wasn't like too overt, I guess is the best way to put it. Like if you didn't know Saw from Rogue One, you didn't need to. Like he still fit in, but they didn't give you this whole backstory to explain who he was in this show. They're just like, here's a character, he interacts with characters and now he's out of the story. Like that's it.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it wasn't so handholdy. It's like if you're completely new to Star Wars and you don't know any of the Rogue One stuff or any of the backstory, you could still get into it because there's a fresh start for so many characters in the series.
Yeah.
But then also, if you do know all your stuff and you have seen Rogue One and all these other stories, there's all this like depth to things you've already seen before. I feel like this show works on so many levels. Like, have you managed to introduce someone like a non-Star Wars lover to the show?
I have not. I've suggested it, and a few people that I know are just really, I don't like Star Wars. So they're kind of like purposely not getting into it. I'm like, dude, you really kind of screwing yourself there. This is really something good. And I keep telling them it's not it's not, hey, here's a bunch of, lightsabers and blasters and spaceships. It's kind of like, it's watching something you would see on regular network television. It's
funny you mentioned that.
Okay.
Did you know that they're putting it on network television?
No, really?
Yeah, they made the move. I guess I would guess it's probably ABC, but they're putting it on broadcast TV after the positive reception of it. They're like, hey, we might have something here. We might get some subscribers if we put this on free TV for people.
Wow. I did not know that. I didn't see that.
I mean, it's a really interesting strategy, isn't it? To get people to sign up for Disney Plus, be like, this is all the cool shit you're missing out on. We got stuff like Andor.
Well, it's totally something that could work. I mean, Kale did. He says one of the teachers I've been working with recently was very anti-Andor because it was slow and boring. Told them to wait until the end and watch it all. They loved it after all. Yeah, I mean, that kind of like encapsulates I think our whole kind of thoughts, our whole thought process on the show is that it is. I mean, this really could be a crossover, I think, because I can see it working on network television because it's not. I mean, it's geared towards us, but it's also geared towards people that maybe need like a gateway into Star Wars.
I've called this up here just to follow up on this. So ABC aired the first 2 episodes on November 23rd. So the day of the finale on Disney Plus, ABC aired the first 2 episodes, and they're on Hulu until December 7th. So that is today. As another way to get people into the series, and then they got to go over to Disney Plus for the rest of them.
I wonder if they saw any uptick in subscribership from that.
Be interesting, yeah. So you wanted to talk about season 2, which is I think this is a good time to bring that up because, we've covered season 1 pretty thoroughly here, but season 2 is probably a couple of years off, unfortunately. I think they just started filming it.
I thought they filmed it all at the same time. Isn't it coming out next year? I thought it was like pretty quick.
Well, let me do some quick Googling just to make sure my facts are straight.
Yeah, but, I thought they told us at Celebration that it
November 21st, 2022, Collider.com. Andor season 2 starts filming today and shoots till next summer. So they just started filming it.
What the heck was I thinking that? I thought I remember Diego Luna saying at Celebration in that one panel that we saw that he was what? Joseph Wren, what's up, man? He says today's the last day before the price increase too. Oh, God bless it. All these price increases with these damn streaming services. Everyone cut the cord because they want to do all these streaming services instead of cable. Cable's too expensive. With all the damn streaming services out there, we're paying way more than cable. Bunch of bullshit. Anyway, whole nother topic.
So here's a snippet from the Collider article. Referencing the schedule for the first season, Gilroy explained, if the past is predicate, thank you, Papa Pad, for interrupting me. Now I lost my spot because it popped in. Okay, there we go. If past is predicate and we do the same thing we did before, it'll be on the same schedule. It will come out 2 years later.
Damn it. I could have sworn he said it was like a year apart. I could have sworn, but maybe I was thinking of something else that they talked about. We got so much stuff at Celebration. It was crazy. So,
this is a great quote, though. It continues on. Let me finish this out here. The only place you can accelerate the processes is in post. And the only way you can accelerate in post is with money. And money is tight. So I really don't know. There would have to be some serious motivation next May or June or something. Someone would have to say, wow, we really need this and we're willing to pay X. Rogue One proved if you throw money at it, you can do post really, really fast. It's just very, very, very expensive.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, damn it. I don't want to wait. Pricks. But that gives us
based on how good it is, though, I'll be patient.
That gives us at least an idea of what we're going to see at Celebration 24, though. Yeah, 2 years will be 2024, so we'll definitely have an Andor panel, and we'll get the sneak peek and everything. So that'll be kind of cool. But,
so you have hopes for season 2?
Yeah, that was going to be my final question of the night for you. So I put this basically in the show description on our social media, and then tonight, like, can we safely say that this is the best Disney Plus show, even without having seen season 2? Do we need to see season 2?
Oof.
Before
that
saying
is a tough question. I mean, you're stacking it up against The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
I could definitely put it above Obi-Wan and Book of Boba Fett. But Mandalorian, that's tough.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's the best. And I don't have to see season 2 to know that.
Wow. Okay, that's big words. So how do you back that up?
Well, Rogue One was such an unbelievable surprise to me, and it's so effing good and just unbelievably perfect that they knocked that out of the park. Then they basically took that and spread it out over 12 episodes in Andor, longer form episodes than, some of the other stuff. And it was absolutely incredible. And I think it's just proven that, kind of like how, Filoni and Favreau, everyone was like, oh, they're amazing after the first season of Mando. And then the second season just absolutely cemented it. I think that's happened with season 1 of Andor for me. It's, the Rogue One was great. This is absolutely fantastic. I don't see him all of a sudden just crapping the bed and pulling out like a Force Awakens on me. So, I mean, it's very close with The Mandalorian. Don't get me wrong. Excuse me. But I just think knowing what they've done, I have all the faith in the world in them, and I think it's going to be the best. I mean, you're going to add K2SO, first of all. So that cannot suck. I mean, if they screw that up, that's going to be one of the biggest Star Wars fails ever. So,
well, that one's going to be interesting because they did already tell the story of how Cassian met K2 in comics. So now the question becomes, do they just retell the comic, or do they steamroll it, or do they kind of play with it a little bit the same way Bad Batch played with Caleb Dune in Order 66?
I mean, I think we've mentioned this before, but I mean, that's a tough question because to me it's like, well, how many people actually read the comics? But there is a lot. I mean, I don't, but yeah, that's tough. Joseph Friend, he asks, better than the Bad Batch? I love Bad Batch, but yes, I'm a huge Bad Batch fan. But
yeah, I purposely kept it to live action only.
Yeah. Kale says, I feel like Mandalorian may have done more for Disney Plus. I think I still like Mando and Kenobi more for the adrenaline, but I think Andor may be the best show for sure. Kenobi's always a difficult one to put in there because it was a movie that they chopped into 6 pieces and expanded a little bit. That was not meant to be what it was. That was, if they were going to do a Kenobi show, it would have been like 10 episodes, 12 episodes, something like that. And they damn sure wouldn't have made it just one season. There's no way you bring out Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's like a longer version of killing Darth Maul. You know, like you just everyone wants to see Obi-Wan Kenobi. So
what surprises me is that the Obi-Wan show was like done entirely in the volume, and it shows. And this is the series that got all the money to go to locations and build real sets, and it shows. Like, if I'm going to throw money at a project, it's not going to be the Rogue One spinoff. It's going to be getting the prequel guys back for another chapter, you know?
I would disagree.
Really?
Yeah. Because you're already going to get eyeballs on it just saying, hey, you want to see Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker? Knowing you're going to get Darth Vader? People are going to watch it if they film it in a bathroom or a closet. With like,
well, true, but that's exactly the point. Like, if you've got that many eyeballs on it, don't you want to make sure it's the best thing possible?
They're already going to get the views. I think for something like Andor, and they're going to get the views on Andor. I mean, they pretty much have so much fan cred built up now from The Mandalorian that people are going to watch what they give us. But with Andor, you have to have that realism, and you can't. It's like you can't do these sorts of things 100% in the volume. I mean, like, you know, Mando was done on some real sets and things like that. Like, whereas Kenobi, a lot of it is space and you know, different planets. You could do that. So, you know, it's, I mean, I think you have to do it. And also, it's a longer show. I mean, it's 12 episodes and you know, 24 technically when you factor in season 2. So, you know. Well, why don't we get out of here on a comment by Kale, because this is a good positive thing to. He says, one thing's for sure, this has been a pretty great year for Star Wars as a whole. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we just keep getting more and more content, and it just doesn't seem to end. I mean, we got next year we've got Bad Batch in January, Mando season 3. The first episode is March 1st. So we're going to have
Ahsoka comes out next year too, right?
I think so. I think Ahsoka comes out. They're still working on Skeleton Crew, which I don't know. I still don't know what to think about that one. I don't. That's going to be one of those ones that might test the limits of what they can get away with. Mm-hmm. You know, here's a bunch of kids lost in the woods, and then this Jedi guy has to go find them. Okay. Now, if they can make it as cool as like Stand By Me in Space, I am all in. Oh, there it is. Kale brings up another one. Acolyte. Yep, Acolyte's coming. So that's cool.
One that flew under the radar this year we didn't even bring up, Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah, well, it didn't really fly under the radar. I haven't watched it.
Nah. I have. It's fun little backstory stuff.
I heard it's good.
Not essential viewing, I would say, but it's fun. But yeah, so yeah, we are absolutely spoiled for content. Like I said, we got Tales from the Jedi. We got the Bad Batch. We got, wait, was the Bad Batch this year? Or was that last year?
I think it was last year, wasn't it? Because it was already over, and they were talking about season 2 when we were at Celebration. So,
but we did get Book of Boba Fett this year. Mm-hmm. We got Andor. I mean, those two series right there. That's a lot of Star Wars, a lot of live action Star Wars. So while we don't have any films coming out anytime soon that we know of, there's definitely no lack of Star Wars content to chew on.
I know. Well, on that note, dude, why don't we close up shop? I know that you're not feeling well and you wanted to kind of keep it close to the vest tonight, and yet here we went a full-length episode. So
yeah. Dude, the conversation was rejuvenating.
There you go. So maybe you don't need more leave. So, that was good, man. Andor kicks ass. And next episode is going to be a lot of fun. We're doing kind of a Christmas episode. It'll be, what's today's date? It'll be the
week of Christmas. It'll be the 21st.
Yep. Wednesday, December 21st. I might end up drunk because that is the very first night of my long Christmas break. I'll be off for like 12.
Oh, very nice.
Yep. And I, knock on wood, will have keys to my new house by then. So, that'll be fun. But yeah, we're gonna do a tale of two Christmas stories. Yep, we're gonna do a tale of two Christmas stories since A Christmas Story Christmas sequel came out, and we have both seen it. And A Christmas Story is my favorite Christmas movie by far. So I really want to talk about those two movies, and leave it to your imagination as to what we think about it. But yeah, we're gonna be talking some Christmas Story on our next episode. So it'll be a very festive episode. And yeah, dude, it was good getting back in the chair. I was sick last week. I mean, me and you had to take an episode off, and then I had to miss an episode of my Dream Theater podcast last week, so I haven't been able to talk very much lately, and it kind of sucked. So glad we could jump back on and do this. So yeah, so guys, our next episode is going to be right here on Facebook and YouTube on Wednesday, December 21st, and it'll be at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, we are going to be talking about A Christmas Story Christmas, and that obviously is going to bring up discussion of the Christmas classic, A Christmas Story. So jump in for that one and give us your thoughts. Jump in the chat as always. Remember, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. And go grab yourself some customizable Nerf Herder Council swag at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. So until next time, I am your host, JT at Dog Pound Jedi. He is AJ
at Drake Adams 579.
And guys, we'll see you next time.
This bucket of bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my Nerf herder.
You my Nerf herder.